Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today, we are speaking with Gardea Christian. Gardea is the co-founder of Trifecta. He is an agent of change who transforms lives to reach their best health in 90 days. Gardea, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Enrique. Appreciate you. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Definitely. I am so excited because, folks, we got a Marine in the house, and I love to host fellow veterans of mine on these shows. But he is here specifically because we're going to be speaking about the power of health and wellness for effective leadership, something that a lot of people are challenged with. And we're going to have Gardea answer all the questions. But before we get into that, Gardea, tell us a little bit about you.
So a little bit about me. My name is Gardea Christian, born in Michigan, raised in Delaware. When I graduated from the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, I commissioned to the Marine Corps. I became an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. I was stationed in North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, and then deployed to Afghanistan 3 times. And then after my 3rd deployment, returned to the stateside and decided to transition from the Marine Corps into the civilian life. And at that point, it was like, all right, what am I going to do? So I, did the traditional job hunt, looked out for, talked to recruiters, and got a job actually in retail management. So actually working in New York City for Bloomingdale's as an asset protection manager. So I worked at the flagship location on 59th Street and then their location in Soho. And while I was doing that, my mindset was so used to the military, and because I had, been back to back deployments of constant action and activity, I was like, all right, I'm only working 5 days a week. Like, this isn't enough, right? And so then I started training at a gym because one of my friends was like, hey, this gym needs a trainer. So I started training at a gym, Church Street Boxing Gym in Manhattan, through Hollywood Hino, who was a celebrity trainer there, teaching his classes and then teaching at the gym at Church Street. I was doing that on the side. And then in 2017, decided to transition from Bloomingdale's to full-time training, coaching at the boxing gym. And then in 2018, my co-founder, my brother, Paul Bamba, he said, hey, we're both trainers. We're both good at what we do. We're both Marine veterans. Like, let's combine forces and create our own identity, own brand. So we created Trifecta Strong. That's the logo and all behind me. And then in 2018, started teaching classes outside in gym spaces, renting spaces like halls, like very grassroots, wherever we could find a space to teach. We were bringing our method of fitness, which is the Trifecta method. So it's boxing, HIIT, yoga, meditation, all in one class. Those common modalities, sport, body, and mind, all in one. And in 2020, still remember it, March 16th, we had a lease signing. And I think it was like 2 p.m. And that morning, they were like, hey, the governor's going to make an announcement about the state's reaction to COVID. And so we told the broker, hey, let's just wait. And the broker was like, well, we hear it's only going to be 2 weeks. Let's just sign the paperwork. And then, it'll only be 2 weeks, then we get right into it. We're like, oh, we'll just wait till the announcement. The announcement was 2 weeks. We're like, oh, let's just wait for 2 weeks. Then 2 weeks turned into 2 months, turned into almost 2 years of a shutdown, right? The gyms were shut down completely. Like, you couldn't go in. Like, they had, at one point during the pause, the lockdown, the National Guard were actually patrolling the city and like doing gym checks, so it felt very like coming from a military background. I was like, all right, I've seen these procedures and operations. Like, I did these in Afghanistan. It's kind of crazy that's happening here in the States and in New York City. But so we transitioned to digital. We created a digital app. It's on iOS, iPad, iPhone. So it has all those classes, the Trifecta method classes, then also breaks it out into boxing specific, yoga specific, HIIT specific, meditation specific classes. And we started, once people, about 6 months into the lockdown, people started getting more comfortable training. So we started going outside. And also the local government was like, hey, outside fitness is accepted and approved. So we started teaching outdoor classes in mass. We started doing the YouTube, Instagram, Zoom fitness classes. It's like we're on Zoom now, right? Teaching it. And then at that point, we opened up private training facilities in the city where we can train up to 4 people at a time. So we did private, semi-private training, and that became our main focus in addition to the digital app. And so now we're at this point where it's like, all right, where do we go from here, right? Because you're always looking to improve the processes and as a business to grow, to scale with what you have, and then to scale the business as well, right? So scaling and then scalability. And so that's where we are now, right? Providing these resources of fitness, right? Whether it's through talking just like this over Zoom, like creating a plan, whether it's training in person, whether it's creating a program and checking in and providing accountability. And so we do that, now it's 2023 of April. So that's what we've been doing. And so now at this point, it's like, all right, do we want to open up our own gym space? Do we want to continue to facilitate how we've been facilitating, right? My business partner, Paul Baum, is also a professional boxer, right? So working the brand awareness that way, and also just him accomplishing his goals and dreams to be able to be a professional boxer and to fight. So that's where we are now. Still improving health, improving wellness, right? But now looking at the different avenues that are available.
And I love how the joining of forces has facilitated Trifecta to not only pivot during critical times, but even as you intend to grow, you're pivoting, you're assessing, sort of like the perma we use while we're in service, right? You
Exactly.
plan and all the things that come with that preparation for the next phase in business or in life. And I'm glad that you are honing in on the health, and we're approaching this topic for those that are listening for the betterment of leaders. Now, we were just discussing how companies have a patch at health and wellness. It's included in the HR package. Most people don't get deep down enough in the verbiage to weed that out and say, oh, this is available to me. But if you are listening and you do have HR and a package, start digging in there because you'll be surprised. Now, we're going to get into this conversation, but before we do, what is your definition of health and wellness in the leader's perspective?
So health and wellness from a leader's perspective is a lot more than just the physical, right? Most people hear health and wellness, they associate fitness with it. So you hear like the health, wellness, fitness, wellness, some combination of those three, right? And it's more than just physical. It was actually funny. I was with a client this morning and we were training, and my client was venting, right? Expressing how they felt emotionally about certain situations. And after the session, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry for venting. I'm like, no, that is what we as trainers do. We provide the physical tool, but that physical tool that we're providing, whether it's a program, whether it's training with you, whether it's creating a plan with you, then facilitates the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, those other aspects, because the physical allows you to open up those other avenues, right? So health and wellness for leaders is about the overall individual, right? As a leader, I was, in the Marine Corps, in Bloomingdale's, at my gym, even now. So in just general life, right? My mission is to make sure that my people and everyone that I work with, that works for me, that I work for, grows and gets better, right? So when it comes to health and wellness, it's about growing and getting better physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally, right? Because you can get better physically, right? You can get stronger, run faster, but if your mental health isn't where it needs to be, right, that physical only can take you so far, right? And so we have to look at it as a whole, which is why now in today's industry, you're hearing a lot about holistic health, right? And you have a lot of trainers who maybe they, like for myself, right? I started out as a boxing trainer and then started working with yoga training and then meditation training, right? And for me, it's always been something that I've always done since I started training when I was 17 years old, in terms of getting that holistic view. But it's becoming a mainstay, which is great because as a trainer, if I'm helping you get better physically, even if I don't have the expertise to help you maybe get better mentally, I can be able to identify issues and redirect. Say, hey, I notice that you feel stressed. You should probably talk to someone. Or, hey, I know what, and this is also when it comes to collaboration, right? I know a therapist. Let me have you reach out to them. Maybe you can have a conversation, because even if that individual doesn't necessarily go with that therapist or utilize their services, it now starts in their mind, starts that process, right? Because when it comes to health and wellness, it's a when you're in it to improve, right? It takes time, right? It doesn't happen overnight, right? So first you have to think about it. You're like, oh yeah, maybe I do have issues, or maybe there is this problem. Maybe I do want to get better, right? Or maybe I'm doing well, but I can go to that next level. And then it gets into researching, taking action, like talking to other people about it. So when it comes to health and wellness from a leader's perspective, it's about the overall, right? The physical, the mental, the nutritional, the financial, the spiritual. Like I can give all these categorical all, right? But it's the overall when it comes to the individual. It's not just physical.
And I love that you bring that aspect to light, because leaders don't really understand the totality of their responsibility when you're talking about bringing in a team member, a new team member, or existing team member, or even if you're the new member of a team, now you have to get acquainted enough to you're not the problem solver, right? That you lead the team to solve these problems, but you have to be the problem identifier.
Yeah.
You have to identify, even in the wellness and the physical aspect of your team, when they need help and attention. You may not be able to do it, but you better have somebody that you know that can, right? And that
Yes.
is the true essence of leadership. Now, how can leaders, because this is a question that I often get, we tend to help others and forget about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? That's easy thing to do, day in, day out. So how can leaders prioritize their own health and well-being while also managing the demands they have with their roles?
Well, you just said it. They have to manage it. They have to prioritize it, right? They do it for everything else, right? And that starts, and even though it's physical health that they need to prioritize and manage, it starts with the mental. Because if in your mind you have not told yourself that your health is important enough to prioritize, to manage, you're not going to do it. In your mind, you're like, hey, I'm a leader, so my people have to take care of, right? As a Marine, I'm making sure that when I'm going overseas, I'm bringing everyone back, right? As a leader in the civilian force, I don't have to worry about that aspect, but I want to make sure they come to work on time. They come to work with all the resources, that they have resources available to them if they need them. So if you mentally are like, I'm a leader, making sure to take care of my people, and also I'm a business leader. So from a financial standpoint, making sure that I'm making the sales, right, not acquiring loss, right? If those are your priorities and you haven't prioritized yourself, then you're never going to take the time and do what you need to do when it comes to your physical health. And that's why when it comes to some of my clients that I work with, like I have the conversations like, okay, you're busy, right? Yes, you wake up at 5:30 a.m. You have two kids, you help them get ready for school, then you have to get ready. At that time it's 7:30 a.m. Now you're going to work, you get to work at 8:30 a.m. Now you're gonna work all day, meetings, conducting the business, right? Leading your people, having conversations till 5 p.m. You get home 5:30 p.m. You eat dinner with your kids, with your family, with your spouse, right? Or even if you're single, right? Like you're eating dinner, taking care of yourself nutritionally, and you're like, all right, I just had almost 12 hour day. I need to rest and relax. And you sit down, you rest, relax. Maybe you read a book, maybe you watch TV, maybe you play board games. Maybe everyone right has the phone, so we're like on the phone, right, resting and relaxing, right? Because that's what we call it, resting and relaxing. But when your mind's running using digital devices, not really resting and relaxing. And then at that point, it's like 8:30, 9 p.m. You're like, all right, I need to go to sleep, get in bed by 10 p.m. and restart. And in your head, right, even just talking right now, like, all right, where do I have time to work out? Where do I have time to exercise? Right? Let me do a calculation. Right? Most people think of the gym, say maybe an hour, right? But you can really spend 9 minutes minimum up to like 45 minutes to get most effective, right? And there's 24 hours in a day, right? So that's 1,440 minutes. If you spend 45 minutes, right? Calculate it right now. That's 3% of your day. So you're telling me, as a business owner, as a leader, you can't find 3% of time to exercise, to prioritize yourself, right? And I know it because I've been in those positions where I let myself get burnt out, drained, right, as a leader, and then I have nothing to give, right? We hear the phrase, right? It's a very cliche statement, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Not only can you not pour from an empty cup, but you can't pour from a cup that's broken. You can't pour as much from a cup that has a hole in it, right? So even if, because we and this is something I had to teach myself, right? Because I was like, well, I'm not an empty cup. I'm always have energy to give, right? I have extra energy, so I know I have energy to give if my cup is leaking, and my cup is broken. So I'm here pouring, and it's leaking out the back. So what am I really giving? I'm giving 1, 2, 3, 5% of what I truly could be giving. So we got to take care of ourselves, right? Make sure we have the energy, the fuel, the exercise, the mobility, that our bodies are active. But then we need to make sure that we're taking care of the body. So we're putting it in, right? So we're eating, right? We're fueling ourselves, we're resting, we're sleeping. But if we're not moving our body, making sure that, I can raise my hand overhead, I can touch over my shoulder, right? Simple thing, like that I can pick up a pen without it being a struggle, that I can get out of bed in the morning without pain, right? And which is, once you hit, because I'm over 30 now, right? Once I hit 30, and I always heard it, like, oh, when you hit 30, like life changes. I was like, hi, yeah, this is a funny joke. I stay healthy, I stay fit. But then I hit 30 and I noticed the difference. And I realized I had to adjust how I took care of myself. When I'm 21, 22, I could be up till 3 a.m., wake up at 5 and still go, give 100%. When I was over 30, and I could do that for like a day. And then 2 days later, I'm like, all right, I'm sluggish. I'm still performing. My performance has dropped, right? So sometimes we have to realize as leaders, we have to step back, evaluate and assess, determine, like I said, identify the problems, identify the issues, and then take actions to prioritize ourselves. Because if we don't prioritize and manage ourselves, we can't prioritize and manage other people.
Absolutely. Folks, it's time to check if you're a broken cup. So I tell you what, it's hard enough to do it and give to folks with a good cup. Imagine if it's broken. And a lot of leaders, now, let's be honest, a lot of leaders are broken. They just don't take the time necessary to address that. So let this be the great pause for you, if you're listening, to evaluate the condition of your cup before you go start pouring out again. Now, there's a lot of things that we communicate as leaders during the day, at our work sites, even virtually. And a lot of that is, hey, go do. We don't get the opportunity to do for ourselves. And that's the topic we just talked about. But now we have to communicate for the wellness of others. So, what role does communication play in promoting healthy workplace, and how can leaders effectively communicate about health and wellness with their team?
That's a great question. It's funny you talk about that because when I was in corporate America, right, the number one area where leaders can impact their employees' health is nutrition. We had morning meetings, we had lunch meetings, right? We had banquets, events. And like, what type of food did we have? We had bagels, donuts, right? Which is fine, right? Because you need carbs, you need fats, right? But if you have that every morning meeting, right? If there's no fruits, right? No vegetables, if you're having lunch and it's always ordered in like fast food, right? Fried foods, right? No vegetables, no fruits, right? It's just meats, rice, right? Meats and carbs. You need that for fuel, yes, but you get that whole, like we talk about holistic, right? Whole health, right? The FDA has like the was that the pyramid now, or they made it a plate, right? And if you talk to some farmers, right, they'll tell you like, hey, this isn't necessarily, it's better now than what the data they were putting out, but it's still not the best. right? 'Cause if you think about the food pyramid, what was in the bottom? Like breads, grains, which is great for energy, right? But should you have more breads and grains and vegetables and fruits? I would probably say no, right? As a fitness instructor and as someone who's big on health and wellness and fitness, fruits and vegetables should be the majority of your food from a general health standpoint, because most people, most leaders that we talk about are sedentary, right? So if you're eating bread and you're eating meat, like the proteins and carbs, which is great fuel, and you're not working out to be able to burn that fuel and use the fuel, then it just sits. And that's how we see the weight gain. Right? That's how we see the unhealthy. Like, so even if you don't gain weight, right, it still affects your health. Sometimes we think of health as just weight, right? Gaining it and losing it. But I know people who can look fat, quote unquote, right, to the societal standard, right? But from a metric standpoint of a doctor blood panel test, are healthier than people who look, quote unquote, not fat, right? So health is more than just losing weight. So as leaders, you communicate that with the food, number one. So when you have these meetings, and I'm not saying have a party and be like, all right, guys, we listened to the podcast. Gardea was on there from Trifecta. We got to have celery, carrots, and apples at this birthday party for our manager. Right? I'm not saying that, but you can add it to it. You can still have cake. You can still have those foods. I'm not saying restrict your diet, restrict your routine, but incorporate more in it. So that's the first way to do it. And then the second way is by, and we talked about it just in the previous conversation, prioritizing yourself. If I'm a leader and I'm not exercising, I'm not working out, I'm not living an active lifestyle, I'm not living a healthy lifestyle, what does it look like if I go to my employee and go, hey guys, HR has this health package. You can get $100 off a gym membership. You can talk to a nutrition coach for free once a month. You have this health savings account where you can we'll match the funds you put in, and then you can use it for any type of health, wellness, apparel, anything. And I tell you this, but then you look at me and I'm never working out. I'm not healthy. I have health issues, right? We hear it all the time, like the hypocrisy of leadership, right? When a leader goes, hey, I need everyone to work hard, put in the extra hours, and they're coming in at 8 a.m., leaving at 4 p.m., and they're telling you to stay until 6. Like, why would I stay until 6 if you're not doing it? Same thing with health. Why would I work out, exercise, right, if you're telling me I should do this and you're not doing it? So we have to model the behavior we want to see. So the best way to communicate that is in our actions. So like I said, number one, through the nutritional aspect, because that's direct impact. Hey, employees, it's my birthday today. It's your birthday. It's her birthday. It's their birthday. And we're having a party at 12 in the conference room. There's cake. There's some fruit. There's vegetables, right? There's the options, right? Just like in today's world, right? Veganism is becoming more of a mainstream thing, being vegetarian. So now when people have events, they have a vegetarian option. They have a vegan option, right? Same thing with the workplace. Hey, we're having a birthday party. Here's the cake option. Here's the fruit option, right? That's a great pairing. Fruits are traditionally used as desserts, not necessarily in America, but outside of America, right? Fruits are commonly used as dessert. So then you have the cakes, the pies, the donuts, right? The fat, heavy desserts, but then you have the fruit, the vegetables, right? That can be used as desserts as well. So the best way to communicate is through action and doing it, impacting the nutrition aspect, but then modeling that behavior. So then when you say, hey, here are these tools, like I use them too, so now I can talk even more on it, right? The best way to learn or to get someone, the best way to get someone to do something is to do it yourself first, learn how to do it, so then you can teach them.
The culture you set and the example you show are more
Yes.
powerful than most things when it comes to, if you want to be a leader, preaching health and
Yeah.
wellness, right? And talk about culture, that's a huge thing, because I was part of an organization that most of the meetings had the carbs, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Monday morning was all bagel and Chick-fil-A, and we were loving it, right?
Yeah.
But they did have an alternative, which is always good. But how can leaders foster a culture of health and wellness within their organizations?
Action, 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 action. That's all it is, like taking action. So when I worked at Bloomingdale's, there was a Soul Cycle that opened up across the street. So we did a partnership where we had people from our team I think it was like for 2 weeks, you could take up to like 2 classes a week for 2 weeks at no charge, no cost. And so our general manager of the store, and my fellow senior managers and other junior managers, we were like, oh, we're gonna take these classes, and we told the employees, hey, here are these options. Here's the class I'm taking. If you want to join me, right? Some did, like, oh wow, like I need to work out, and they're offering me this opportunity at no cost to exercise, and they're doing it too. Oh, great, let me go, right? Because not only does it help you for your personal game, and then from a professional game, you're now building a different type of relationship with a manager, with an employee, with your fellow coworkers, right? So it's about bringing that, either going to it, or sometimes we would even bring it in, or we'd have like little challenges. And we like I know at one point we had SoulCycle in our store, like on, I think it was like the second floor. It was like you come ride for like 10-15 minutes, and it was like a fundraiser. So they partnered with a charitable cause, right? Because most people say yes to charity. It's hard to say no to giving, right? Because we understand if the more you give, the more you receive, right? It's also feels good to be able to give. So like, hey, you give, be charitable, donate, and exercise. So that tandem. So you foster that by integrating it within, right? Obviously, being in a retail environment, it's much easier because you have that space versus an office space without a gym, right? If you have a gym in an office, that makes it even easier. Hey, I'm your manager. Every Friday at 1 p.m., I'm going to be in the gym. If anyone wants to join me. Or, hey, let's do a challenge for this month of May. We're going to do who can work out the most, exercise the most. You know, our gym offers classes. Who can take the most classes? Like, we'll make it a prize, or we'll just do it for pride. You know, obviously, if you incentivize it financially, it's gonna drive it a lot more. So you may have to do that initially, but then over time, everyone starts doing it on their own, right? So it's about taking those actions and fostering it through the actions that, like we said, that you model, right? But then also sometimes you need to incentivize it and give people the opportunities. A lot of people want to do more and do better in terms of their health and fitness and wellness. A lot of times they just don't know what to do. So they just need someone to direct them, kind of give them that small push in that direction. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. Like there was one of the employees when we did the SoulCycle, they started going every week after that, right? Before that, they didn't. All they needed was that push to say, hey, here's the opportunity. Here's a recommendation. Here's a suggestion. Oh, wow, I do enjoy it, right? There's this principle that, especially when it comes to fitness, right? When you doing an exercise, you're like, all right, I don't want to do this. It's hard. It's tough, right? Before you do it, that's what you're telling yourself mentally, right? The moment you start it, becomes that much easier, right? So sometimes all you need to do is start it. So a lot of times as leaders, we're like, all right, how do I get this conversation to start having a conversation? And a lot of times it'll start naturally flowing. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that wasn't that hard, right? We do it all the time, procrastination with other things, with tasks. Your boss gives you your boss comes down, hey, this is for your team. You're like, all right, how am I gonna give this to them? How am I gonna break this news to them? Sometimes you just gotta start breaking the news, and then it sucks at first, and then over time, it's like, oh yeah, we understand, we got it. Okay, here's what we can do. Here's a solution. Then you sit back to your office, you're like, oh, okay, I thought they were gonna take it much worse. So here fretting over something that you it's all hypothetical. Like take the action and start building it. That's how you do it. You got to start somewhere, one foot in front of the other.
And I love that because I was about to ask you, and you kind of answered it in this last discussion about culture, a culture of inclusivity and diversity. And a leader does have the ability to drive that. And I love how you put it. Hey, I'm gonna be at the gym. And if there's anything a leader could do is lead a conversation like that. Hey, I'm doing it. I would love if you would join. Hey, no pressure if you don't want to, but I want to let you know I'm there and I'm going to be there. And so we would love to have you. And that's the best thing a leader can do. You mentioned this earlier. Set the tone, be the example, be the person that they can say, well, if he's doing it, maybe it's good. And so I love that. If you had a chance to speak to a mass of leaders, let's just say,
Yes.
about health and wellness, what would be the thing you would want them to take out of that conversation?
It's something I talk about with all of my clients. 3 actions that you can take every day, even if you don't go to the gym, even if your diet or your nutrition intake isn't the best. You take these 3 actions, you will see health improvement. 8 hours of sleep a day, right? Sleep is so important. A lot of times, especially in this culture we have of grind hard, work hard, hustle hard, right? I can sleep when I die. Yeah, well, if you don't sleep, you're gonna die a lot sooner, right? Sleep is a recovery tool. We talk about it in the fitness industry. Oh, do yoga, right? Stretch, get a massage, right? Recovery. But then for the cup, right? The body, we're not recovering. We're not sleeping enough. You get 8 hours of sleep a day, I promise you, you will, even if you don't do anything else but sleep 8 hours a day, you will notice an improvement in your health. You will notice an improvement in your mindset. Second thing, drinking a gallon of water. And now there are the studies out there. It's like a gallon from back in the day when it was 8 ounces. I'm not telling every individual to say, hey, drink a gallon, but let that be your goal. Increase your water intake. That's the mission, right? We don't drink enough water. Even as a trainer, sometimes I have to remind myself, like I have a bottle like that I keep here, right here, that I fill with water every day, just to remind myself to drink water, and I keep it right next to me to make sure I drink water. Because if I see it, I'll do it, right? Out of sight, out of mind. If it's in my sight, it's in my mind, and I'll take action. So increase your water intake. If you drink a gallon of water a day, that's typically a good number. There's studies out there that say, 50% of your body weight in terms of ounces, right? There's different studies in terms of what to do, but increase your water intake, drink more water, right? Third thing, walk. Stay active. 10,000 steps a day, right? It's about 5 miles. 5 miles sounds like, especially if you're not active, and I don't like to run. Like I stay active and I sprint, right? I'll do a mile run. If you see me run a half marathon, a marathon, save me. It was against my will. Or maybe it was for a charitable donation. I was doing it for an organization. But 10,000 steps a day, it's about equivalent to 5 miles. If in New York City, right, because of the density of the population and buildings and just the way city life is, it's much easier to get 10,000 steps versus somewhere like in Delaware where I grew up, where you drive everywhere, where public transportation isn't as reliable, right? So if that happens, all you got to do, right here, you stand up, walk in place, right? Even if I'm here talking to you, I can just move side to side, having a conversation. If you're in a meeting, right? And a lot of meetings now we're seeing on Zoom, right? I can do it like this. If I'm on the phone and there's no video, that's much easier. I can just go like this, walk, and yeah, right? And staying active, right? We're too sedentary, right? We sit a lot in work. We sit a lot at home. We don't move enough daily. We may move a lot on the weekends, right? If we have a family or we're out with our friends, right? We may move a lot there, but during the week, we're too sedentary. But if you sleep 8 hours a day, increase your water intake, increase your daily activity, up to 10,000 steps or more. And a lot of the phones now, it's on our bodies all day, and it literally has steps that can track. If you do those 3 things, you as a leader will see your health improve, will see your mindset improve, we'll see your capabilities to do more improve. And for everyone, from a general standpoint, it'll help. Like all my clients that I train with, those are my 3 things I need them to do. And if they do those 3 things, if they have fitness goals, they accomplish them and they see the marked improvement. When they don't do those 3 things, not saying that it can't be done, but it's much more difficult. It's more of a struggle. It makes it harder. And life's already hard enough. So why make it harder for ourselves? And when it comes to health and wellness and fitness in general, those are the keys to making our lives easier and better, right? When you improve, like you hear that, like the look good, feel good, right? And we see it a lot more, a lot of speakers are coming out with like the mental aspects of it, right? Mental health is becoming more of a precedent. Your mental health is directly impacted through your physical health. Like I tell all my clients that I train with, I'm like, hey, I'm here to help you physically, but I know it's going to help in these other areas, right? And this is something I've talked with other people about too. I'm like, as trainers, we should all either be also mental therapists or at least get some sort of mental therapy training, because when you train someone physically, because of how it impacts mentally, if you can identify, right, issues, problems, or identify patterns from a mental standpoint, it allows you to be a better physical trainer, but also allows you to redirect someone to be able to get assistance and to get help, right? It's all connected. I have one body, right? If I'm doing bicep curls, right, as a trainer, I'm like, oh, this is working your arms, working your biceps, working your hand grip, working your forearms, right? It's also working your shoulder. It's working your core, your stomach, your lower back. It's working your legs because you're standing. If you're sitting, it's not working your legs, right? But we're still working that core, right? So one exercise with a focused body part is working multiple body parts. So if that's the case for your body, if I'm physically working your body, it's going to work mentally. It's going to impact yourself emotionally, right? And in today's world, everybody wants to make more money, right? And they've done studies on it. The healthier you are in terms of activity wise, you typically see a correlation of financials, right? Of increase of income, of revenue, of generation. So if you're healthy and you're active, right, and you're sleeping 8 hours a day, you're drinking, increasing your water intake, you're drinking water, getting 10,000 steps a day, you'll see your life literally improve. And I've done it like as a trainer. I always like to put myself through the struggles that my clients put in. It's like all my workouts that I create for my clients, I do them all. So I'm like, oh, it's hard. I'm like, I understand, right? But let's keep going, right? Because as a leader, if I can do it, right, then I know I can facilitate the capabilities for you to do it, or give you the encouragement or the resources to work towards doing it.
Absolutely. Great tips there. And I tell you, if you are looking to get in optimal, it's in the flow. You gotta have your body flowing. And if you don't sleep and things like that, drink water, obviously you will die if
Yeah.
you don't drink water, but and ultimately getting out and about. If you have a home, it has 2 floors, utilize the stairs. Get on there for about 15 minutes, go up and down your stairs. If you are in a seat and maybe they don't give you that time at work to go out and work out, use some exercises that are done in the chair. You could stand up, do squats, you can do leg lift, you could do a lot. As a leader, become the beacon for your people by getting familiar with the tools you have. And there's a lot of excuses that go out the door once you start knowing and realizing, oh, I got this paperweight that's about 5 pounds. Why not use that? Right. So there's just so many ways. It's excuses, if you ask me, that
Yeah.
we have more of than we have options. But those are great points. Thank you for sharing those. Now, if someone was in the tri-state area up in New York, was able to get to you, or even with your app, which you have facilitated now, they could be anywhere. How would they
Yes.
get a hold of you to get your services?
So you can, for the app, you can go directly to our website, www.trifectastrong.com. We're also on Instagram at trifectastrong. If you want to message, you can message us through there. If you want to reach out to me directly at GYJCman on Instagram. And then for those people who may not like social media or may not be as digitally proficient, the phone, text message, phone call, 212-227-1513. And of course, we got to go over the email. You can message me directly at Gardea. It's Gardea @trifectastrong.com. And those are ways to reach us. And so if you're in the Tri-State area, you want to train, you're in New York City, in Manhattan, we're downtown area, Gramercy, Fulton Seaport area, you can train there. But we have the digital app for those who aren't in New York. And you can also reach out to me because we do programming, right? And where we do like accountability coaching, creating a program, checking in with you to make sure that you're doing what needs to be done, right? So if you say to yourself, hey, I need to work out, but I don't want to, or I'm lazy, or you have like we said, right? You have some excuse, take action and reach out. That's the first step. And then we have a conversation, then we can go from there. Because the worst thing that happens is you don't reach out, you don't take the step, right? And your health deteriorates and affects you. And then it impacts those you love, those you like, even those you work with, right? But if you take the step and have that conversation, at least you know what to do moving forward. And then when you find yourself ready to take those steps, whether it's training with myself, training with Trifecta Strong and with our company, you know, in person or doing it digitally, or utilizing some other resource. Maybe you just decide to train at home, right? And you just use our app, like watch some of our YouTube videos and go that route. At least you'll have taken that first step. Sometimes all you got to do is take the step and then the rest follows. But if you never take that step, you'll never know, right? We talk about like take the step out of faith, take a leap of faith, right? When it comes to your health, wellness, and fitness, you should be taking jumps, leaps, planes, trains, all types of forward momentum, forward movement.
Absolutely. Folks, we're going to have that information as part of the show notes and video for you to get a hold of Gardea and all his services. It has been a pleasure, brother, to host you on today's episode. Thank you for all the information you shared with us today. And folks, today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, and Harchester, London. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. We're always looking for new ideas and guests that can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.